So, welcome back to the stream. Apologies for the various issues we've had. There's Monster moving past iQuicks there for third positions. Now Racing Point 2-3 as the stream is now back online. Apologies for the delay. iQuicks struggling here in the early phase of this race. Has been passed by, well, Berlin. He wasn't able to get at the start, and he's been passed there by Monster, making it a Racing Point 2-3. They're in a very strong position for the constructor standings. However, Legend pulling a gap 1.6 seconds out at the front there. It's looking like a very strong start for them. It doesn't look like it's been a strong start at all for Tim Wentink. We saw him go off at turn number 5 on the first lap, and it looks like his race isn't getting much, but he's made up a few places after being knocked down to P14 or 15, so he's had an alright comeback drive in the last 2 laps. He's still got more ground to make up though. He's got the sister AlphaTauri just ahead of him, and I'm sure Tim will be hoping to make light work of this AlphaTauri of Sam D, who's made 1 position from the start, the only driver inside the top 10, as Magical Alonso does get a time penalty there, you can see. But here goes Tim with DRS enabled. You'd imagine this would be quite an easy move for the Red Bull, and it is. Talking about easy move, there's the 2 Renaults moving past each other. Magical Alonso ahead of Hank Peter there. Was that an engineered swap? Is Magical Alonso now going to get after the McLaren of Wuschel there in 5th position? Let's have a quick look at the position change up and down the field. Bow up into 10th from 14th position on them hard tyres. Strong start for himself. You see him sporting that Sebastian Vettel-esque helmet. Very nice design from him there, as he looks to push that Ferrari further up the top 10. You can see the field spread with the track map. VRT Benjamin picked up damage on the first lap, and he's paying the price for that. Only just on the start finish straight now. Back to this battle for the final podium position. It looks as if iQuicks still just about holding on to the DRS range of Monster. However, it is borderline, and if iQuicks isn't careful, he's going to drop out of the DRS range. I think he will pick it up for this straight, will he? He's not going to pick up DRS, so iQuicks out of DRS now, of the car ahead. Although it does look as if he's using a little bit of his ERS deployment to close back in, but you can see late on the brakes there into turn 1, and he's dropped back. So iQuicks struggling in this early phase. A little bit further back we got battling between Ducky, who's side by side with the Haas into turn number 1. The Haas got one round the outside. He's going to spin round. I believe there was contact there with Felix. There is. Felix picking up damage on that front wing. Here's Jackson, regular commentator for ARC, standing in for Ferrari today on them hard tyres. He's come from further back in the grid, and he makes a move on, that was Felix, who did pick up that damage from that spinning Haas of Topper, who I believe should make a move on the AlphaTauri relatively shortly, presuming his car's okay. It does look to be pretty healthy, and he should be able to crack on with that move. He'll have to wait until his next DRS zone, however. You can see how much time he's losing behind the AlphaTauri, but swoops past on the inside. That's an easy move for him. He moves up into 14th place. As we go a little bit further back up, Tim, who was off the track at turn number 5, showed a really good turn of pace recently. He's caught right up to the back of Hank Peter. Hank Peter's going to defend the inside line. Tim tucks right in behind him. He's going to send one down the inside. Is he going to have the balls on the brake? Yes, he is. He goes down the inside. Nothing Hank Peter can do about that. Tim Wentink back up into 7th position. He's going to get a charge on to Magical Alonso, who himself has closed right up to the back of Wuschel here. So in just a couple of laps time, Tim could be looking to be in a very handy P5 position, and even set his sights on iQuicks, who's completely fallen off the DRS of Monster ahead of him. A little bit further back, I think we might have another car. If we do, that's Ducky for a second lap in a row. He's involved in some sort of incident at turn 2. Is that the Williams off? It is another Williams off, so 2 drivers in a row making a mistake there at turn 2 and hitting the outside barrier. That's their race is basically ruined, as Benjamin up into 19th now. He'll make another place on Tommy. Pressing on, however, Legend as he starts, or as he rounds off the 6th lap of this race, starting the 7th lap. 3.3 second gap to Bolin. Another 2 seconds back his teammate Monster. Iquix not dropping back completely, he's still... If Monster makes a mistake, Iquix is still there to pick up the pieces, and there's a fair gap to this midfield battle. Is Tim going to make it 2 Renaults in 2 laps down into turn 1? I don't think he is. Magical Ones are just weaving out of the slipstream there, but you do get the feeling that Tim will make a move past the Renault very shortly. You can see Magical Ones both drivers have to say struggling on their ERS levels. You wouldn't think it's a track that necessarily overexpends your ERS. With lots of braking zones. There goes Tim down the inside. Not a natural overtaking spot down the inside there. It was unorthodox, but Tim had to get it done, and he's bought himself clean air, or more clean air than he would have stuck behind that Renault. And as I said, that's 2 out of 3 done, and then he's back in the fight to where he should be. And you rather get the feeling that Wushel does not have much time left in P5 with the pace of Tim at this stage of the race. Looking very strong, I do have to say. We've got Tommy Salad out the session, he's retired in the pit lane. Let's see what Tim's able to do off this penultimate corner. Not the best traction. May he be under pressure from Magic Alonso? I don't think he will. Got that Williams coming out of the pits. He'll actually cause a yellow flag, so I don't think there's going to be any overtaking into turn number 1. As Tim does have to stay behind for a moment. Will he go for a move at the hairpin again? As we ride on board, looking back from Wushel's perspective. At the moment holding Tim behind. The Red Bull a stronger, faster car, though you expect he'd get past relatively soon. But for now, Wushel holding that position. I don't expect it to be too long until we start to see the pit stop phase open. We expect a 1 stop from medium to hards. Tim extending all the track there on the exit of turn 9. Is he close enough into this hairpin? No, he's not. Keeping the pressure though on his Tim. And you get the feeling if he can get a good run through this final sector, it'd be Tim's game and Tim's P5 come the end of the straight. Looks like Wushel exited the penultimate corner rather well, but with that slot opening in the rear wing of the Red Bull, there's no point in fighting it. Tim breezes past into P5, and he can set his sights on Iquix, who's just 4.5 seconds up the road. If he can get a move on, he may be able to start challenging the podium positions, Tim. So strong move there from Tim after being put off on the first lap after contact with Iquix. If Tim can turn up the wick, he could go and battle his rival from lap 1. It'll be interesting to see how that one turns out. As I mentioned earlier, Iquix not letting Monster run away with anything here. That gap just on the edge of 1 second. We'll have to see what he's able to do throughout this stint. Maybe pulling an overcut or an undercut. Bolin, though, however, still falling away from Legend, as that gap is nearly 4.5 seconds. As we round off the 10th lap. And just a general observative comment, Tim is already taking time out of the gap to Iquix, so we should expect that to see, or we should expect to see that come down further in the next couple of laps. Due to the nature of Spain with all the dirty air through the middle sector, quite often see gaps between the cars. That's what we seem to be seeing. Iquix not necessarily able to stay close to Monster, who's not really able to stay close to his teammate. And throughout the field you can mainly see 1 second gaps as the drivers just try and keep their tyres alive. Let's remember, at this point in the Grand Prix the tyres will be graining, the tyres will be wearing, so the drivers are going to have to keep that in mind. They're going to want to keep it going for as long as possible. And is that Matthias who spun out? It is Matthias. Henk Peter lost the car on the exit of turn 5. I think he's kept out of the wall, no damage on that front wing, but he has dropped to P10, so that is the first sign of the tyres starting to give up a little bit. So I imagine he's dropped it on traction there, and what was looking for a really good race for Renault in 7th and 8th has turned into a not so good race for Renault. Nevertheless, still 2 cars in the points, so still positives to be taken for the Renault team principals, as Magical Alonso is still pushing on, not quite able to get within that close gap to Wushel as he does make a mistake there into the final chicane. As Matthias, has he gone off again? Matthias has gone off again. Will that cause a safety car? He's gone off on the right. That's a very weird place to go off. So his rear tyres must have been overheating to spin off twice in one lap. So that's going to promote Jackson into P10. Chop it into P11. Everyone else behind will go up another position. But as I said, first signs that them medium tyres are starting to give up. Matthias has lost it. And there is a full course yellow. I don't have the graphic to say it's a safety car or not yet. I believe I just saw on that Marshall post that it's a VSC. It is a VSC. So, who's going to take the opportunity to pit? Who can pit? Benjamin's going to pit. Atix is going to pit. Ashy Boy stays out. So it looks like Atix and Benjamin maybe the only ones with a chance to pit. But I'm not sure how this lines up with the strategy. But you'd rather get the feeling that these hard tyres can do about 22 laps here, as Atix and Ben both pit on to the hard tyre. We're still under VSC, so instead of losing about 23 seconds, the drivers lose about 12 seconds at their stop, so 10 seconds gained. This could turn Benjamin's race, which was looking quite poor after damage at turn 1. Could turn it into a positive as he's halved the pit stop loss. If he can get past Atix quickly, he can start to think about an undercut into the top 10. Let's see what everyone else is doing. Has iQuick's gone off? iQuick's pits actually, so I'm not sure if that was a delayed reaction to the VSC or his tyres have really fallen off a cliff. But he's gone onto medium tyres. He hasn't changed his tyres as far as I can see. Has iQuick's just served a drive-through? I think he may have. I'm going to check the race director very quickly now. Could he have got a drive-through for speeding under VSC? We've got lots of drive-throughs for Benjamin, drive-through for Magical Alonso, drive-through for Monster, drive-through for Wushel, drive-through for Atix, and drive-through for iQuicks. There's so many drivers there being awarded drive-through penalties. I believe now I can finally see the penalties coming up on the bottom. So, Benjamin, although that race was looking great, he's going to come back in for another drive-through, as is Atix. So a lot of drivers ended up speeding under the VSC. I'm not sure why that's happened, but nevertheless it has. Magical Alonso now. Remember, Wushel does have that that drive-through penalty he'll have to serve this lap or next lap. So Magical Alonso is going to move up into P5. TTV iQuicks further behind has served his drive-through but has to pit again. Monster's into the pit, so Monster the first of the top 3 to call it quits. And he was another one. I keep forgetting, but he was another one who had to serve that drive-through penalty. So where's he going to come out in terms of iQuicks? These two were close on track. Remember, there's about a 1 second gap by the time iQuicks came in. Neither of these have stopped for fresh tyres. It looks as if iQuicks has halved that deposit. It was about 1.2 seconds, now only 6/10. So that gap coming down significantly. If iQuicks can hold it within this range to the main straight, he will get a helping of DRS between turn 9 and turn 10. If he can hold it this range, he gets very sideways there at turn 5. But if he can keep this range to the racing point, he should have an opportunity for a move down into turn number 1 with the assistance of DRS. Here is Steve, Magical Alonso, still pushing on these medium tyres. DRS activated with the Keep Fighting Michael tribute helmet. Beautiful tribute there from Steve as he pushes on. Is Wushel starting to struggle on his tyres? We've surely got to see him come into the pits this lap to serve his time penalty. Got a yellow flag in sector 3. We did. I believe that was for one of the lapped cars letting drivers through. Magical Alonso does pit, as does Wushel, but will Wushel pit for tyres or will he pit to serve his drive-through? I can't see either the Renault or the McLaren team. So are both drivers? I think both drivers are serving a drive-through. So chaos here with drive-through penalties. This is going to promote Crumpton in the Haas all the way up to 7th. Topper team, who's going to come into pits. I believe he was a driver with a drive-through, but this benefits someone like Jackson on them hard tyres in the Ferrari. He's gained a lot of time on the drivers around him, and he could break into the top 10 here. Also, it's good for Beau in the other Ferrari. Both Ferraris going for that hard tyre strategy. This is benefiting them a lot because they're just making up free time on the drivers around him, and now their tyres will be in better condition as the other drivers' tyres start to wear away. Here's iQuicks on the back of Monster, as Monster does lap Mike Henning there. That does give him DRS down the straight, which does allow him to pull away. Just to update you chat, Ismail 7th after a drive-through penalty. Monster, iQuicks, Wushel, Magic Alonso, Topper team, Benjamin and Atix all had to serve drive-through penalties for speeding under VSC. iQuicks though right on the back of Monster now. Monster does pit. It seems it was a little bit undecided there from Monster. I do believe that this time both drivers are going to change their tyres. Monster a little bit more conservative into the pit lane entry. Hard tyres, you can see the strategy now open. Hard tyres for both of these drivers to go to the end of the race. Nearly half race distance done, and the two behind him are going to follow suit. iQuicks out, or I should say Monster out ahead of iQuicks. Status quo there. Monza and Wushel will both opt for the same tyre strategy. Hard tyres to the end seems to be the popular choice. Here is Topper, who didn't serve a drive-through. He must have served it before. I think he was one of the first drivers to serve it. He's not going to come out anywhere close to Magic Alonso, so that's no worries for them. A little bit further up, where are the battles on track? Tim Wenting still pushing on them medium tyres. Is he going to pit? I'll tell you who is going to pit. VR46 Bolin. So he's got an 11-second gap to Legend, so I'm not sure if Bolin made a mistake, but it's going to take something pretty incredible as Tim does pit. It's going to take a large mistake from Legend to give up this win. No questions asked there at the stop for Bolin. He's going to come in and out in second. Where's Tim Wenting going to come out though? Remember, this is a battle for an effective third position. Monster and iQuicks both had to serve drive-throughs, and Tim is going to say thank you very much, and he's moved up. Right now it's 4th position, but once the Ferrari of Beau pits, Tim's going to be up into a podium position of P3 after being off the road at turn 5. I think we can all agree that's a strong drive for him. Can he get his head down and start to close the gap? It's about 10 seconds at the moment to VR46 Bolin there in the racing point for P2. That'll be an interesting battle to watch as the race goes on. Here's the other McLaren battling with Magic Alonso. Defending his teammate here is Ashy Boy holding up the Renault of Magic Alonso. That's going to give his teammate Wushel some breathing space, as that gap is now over a second. So was that a tactical play between the two McLarens to hold Magic Alonso up and crucially get him out of the DRS range of Wushel, as they are fighting over an effective P6, I believe, after both racing points, both Mercedes. Oh well, effective P5 because Benjamin still down in 15th position, and after that drive-through penalty, things really not gone his way. He'll probably need some form of safety car in order to come back up into the points this race, because he's well and truly out of it. Felix is battling with Topper here. Felix will have to make another stop, as will Ashy Boy, who pit on lap 5. Crumpton, who I said was up a few positions, has pit and come out ahead of Wushel and Magic Alonso, which is really important here at a track like Spain where it's really hard to overtake. Track position's very important. That's exactly what Crumpton's got. He'll move up another place when Sam D pits ahead of him, because he does have to pit. And let's not forget, both Ferraris still have to pit. Jackson and TRT Beau going on very well indeed, I have to say, driving their own race. No penalties for Jackson, 1 penalty for Beau, but Beau not losing loads of time at all to Tim Wenting, who is I don't think he's turned on these hard tyres as quick as he might have wanted to. And if he wants to go and get after Bolin, he's got to get a move on with just 15 laps left in this race after this one. But we know Tim's got a lot of pace, multiple time race winner in FEL, not in VRL, podium sitter however. He's certainly got the pace to do it. Took half a second out of Bo in that final sector as he cracks on, and that gap is falling. Further down, Felix did get past the Haas of Toppy team. In terms of the other Haas, still going along nicely in P9. Very strong given where the relative performance of the car is. It'll be interesting to see if he can keep Wurschel and Magic Alonso behind him as this race goes on. Driving a strong, composed race, I have to say, Compton. But you rather get the feeling that Wurschel and Magic Alonso will move past him sooner rather than later. Magic Alonso dipping a tyre onto the grass there, pushing the limits of his Renault. As they go through the middle sector there, through the fast flat out turn 9. It's going to be important that Wurschel makes a move on Crumpton here if he doesn't want to get held up, because he really could get held up. You can see he's using overtake mode. He goes down the inside. Crumpton moved across there in the braking zone. Damage for Wurschel there. They make a bit more contact on the exit of the corner, and with no front wing, Crumpton understeers. Well, I should say Wurschel understeers into Crumpton, and I have to say Crumpton got what he deserved from that. That was movement under braking from the Haas driver, and what was looking like I was praising him a lap ago for the strong race he's had, as Jackson does come into the pits. I was praising him after he's had a strong race. He's just moved across completely there under braking, and unfortunately Wurschel is going to have damage. You're going to have to pit. Assume onto the medium tyres, but a new front wing. Here's Jackson. Jackson's come out of the pits ahead of Crumpton in P9 now, so that's good signs for him. But not only that, Crumpton is so dirty, says Carson. That was a dirty move from Crumpton, and I'm sure the stewards will take a look into that. Jackson up in 9th. That's good news for him. Not only that, but it's also good news for TRT Bo, who is about 7 seconds up the road from Jackson. Jackson just 2.5 seconds behind Magic Alonso now. He could jump Magic Alonso and come out in 7th position. So Ferrari could be on for a good point scoring finish. Today. As there goes Bo into the pits. Let's see how this stop is. Gets it slowed down for the pit entry. That's going to promote Tim into P3. Got that 13-second gap to Bolin ahead. Can he close that before the end of the race? He needs about a second lap. It will be a mega effort from Tim if he's able to do so. Hard, I should say medium tyres for Bo. He'll come out behind Sam D. However, Sam D does have to pit again. Atix retiring from the session in the pit lane now. It's quite close between Bo and Sam D, but Sam D does get ahead of the Ferrari. I don't think he's got long though before he stops again. Bo now up into 7th position, having made his final stop. So on these fresh tyres he really can get a move on. Talking about getting a move on, Iquix has been behind Monster the whole race. He's really trying to break into that DRS activation gap, as has the story gone throughout the whole race though. It's always been a 10th or 2 off. He's got to find something in the final sector to get within that range. Further back, Bo right on the back of Sam D. This is a representation of what fresh cut tyres can do to you here in Barcelona Circuit de Catalunya. 11 lap fresher tyres on the Ferrari, with cars of relatively similar performance. Sam D does peel off into the pits and releases Bo up into 6th position. Magic Alonso will jump up into 7th position, but Jackson, that gap's gone from 3 seconds to 1.6 now at the end of lap 21. Looks like the medium tyres are working for Ferrari. I expect a strong final stint from them. We could see a really good double point scoring finish from them two today. As Crumpton back up into 9th following Sam D's pit stop. Sam D in a Haas sandwich at the moment. There's Toppet, who has also made his final stop, up there in 11th. Benjamin though, in the Red Bull, been making quiet progress this whole race. He does have one penalty, but he's pushing on. And it's not out of the question that he at least gets, probably P10 is available for him today. But without any external factors such as a safety car, I really don't think there'll be much more on offer for the second Red Bull of VRT Benjamin. Sam D still chasing down Crumpton. We expect him to be in DRS range in just a couple of laps. The same goes for Jackson on Magic Alonso. Jackson just taking it slow. Doesn't need to take any risks. He knows he'll get his rival in just a couple of laps time. The guys on the softer tyres do have to be careful that they don't overheat the tyres, because overheated tyres here at Spain can really hurt. Welcome everyone on the stream. You joined us at the right time, just 11 laps to go. There's going to be a dramatic conclusion to this race. Meanwhile, Sam D has got within the DRS range of Crumpton. We saw a couple of laps ago Crumpton move across on braking to the McLaren of Wushel. For Sam D's case, you'd surely hope he's not going to do the same again and he's learnt his lesson. But Sam D and the AlphaTauri looking very strong on them medium tyres. But as is the nature of Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, not going to be able to get past for the time being. He will have a nice handing of DRS down the second of 2 DRS zones here. Tucking out that dirty air down that corner, down turn 9 I should say. It doesn't put him close enough to Crumpton, but if he can hold a gap, he could probably drop back a couple of tenths on that and still get the Haas down into turn number 1. Talking about getting the Haas, Benjamin will tell you something about that. Seemed like a nice move down into the hairpin, clean move Benjamin up into 11th. He'll have his sights set on the points now. And it looks as if Sam D is about to take P9 off Crumpton. Crumpton moves to the inside. There's no point even defending it. He's just dirtying his tyres. Sam D moves up into 9th position. He can get a move on. Jackson is within the DRS now of Magic Alonso. As expected, TTV iQuick's also in the DRS of Monster. He's been waiting for that all race, and finally it looks like he's got it. So let's see if he's able to close that gap and potentially make a move down into turn number 1. Meanwhile, we're going to follow this battle with Jackson and Magic Alonso. Magic Alonso struggling on them graining older, harder tyres. Jackson loving, absolutely loving these medium tyres at the moment, looking for P7. As his teammate, TRT Bowes, pulled a really healthy gap to the Renault of Magic Alonso in the last couple of laps. 8.5 seconds separate them. You really get the feeling that it's going to go from Bow, Magic Alonso, Jackson to Bow, Jackson, Magic Alonso by the time these two drivers reach turn 1. A really good exit there from Jackson through the penultimate corner. The final corner is barely even a corner in these generation of cars. Just don't extend the track limits. DRS open for the Ferrari. We know the Ferrari lacks speed in a straight line. He's going to have to use more ERS than he probably would like to due to the engine of that car. He's going to go around the outside into turn number 1 and they make contact between the two drivers. Looks like wheel face to wheel face contact there, and Jackson's been sent spinning at turn number 1. He's going to cut across. I don't think that's too dangerous at all. But yeah, sent spinning there at turn number 1. I'm not sure how the stewards will take a view on that, but it looks as if the two drivers just merged towards each other, and Jackson now is going to have to get a move on, because if he's not careful he's going to have Sam D behind him in a couple of laps. I'm not sure how the stewards will take that. Personally, I'd put it down to a racing incident for my uninformed opinion, only seeing that one show of it live. Going to be important now for Jackson to keep his tyres under control temperature wise and try and come back at Steve, but with just 8 laps to go in this race I'm not sure if he's going to be able to. Meanwhile, Benjamin has got past Crumpton. They're side by side. He temporarily got past Crumpton before dropping back. I think Benjamin, thinking smart, he's going to have an opportunity down into turn number 1. Haas running the Ferrari engine. Certainly struggling for straight line speed, and what is Crumpton doing? Crumpton completely brake tested Ben in the middle of the apex of the penultimate corner. And for a second time today, he's given a driver front wing damage and ruined Ben's chance of points. What is Crumpton doing? Completely brake tested the Red Bull there. And I don't think the stewards are going to be very happy with that, because that's 2 incidents now he's caused. That was completely unnecessary from Crumpton to hit the brakes there. If he continues at this rate, he might be disqualified from the race. Meanwhile, it looks like iQuicks has finally got past Monster. I said he'd been chasing it all race. It looks like that Mercedes sits a little bit happier on the hard compound tyres. And he's moved up into P4. Let's see how Monster can stay with him. We're going to follow this battle for the time being. It is the closest battle on track at the moment. As the drivers continue back up the hill now. If Monster can get a good run through the final sector, he's going to have a helping of DRS down this middle straight. He may have an opportunity to get back. This may be Monster's last chance into turn number 1 this lap if iQuicks is that much quicker than him. We know track position is important due to the nature of these cars and the dirty air. This may be Monster's last chance to pull a move on iQuicks unless he makes a mistake. He's certainly close enough. DRS activated for the Racing Point, both Mercedes powered engines. You can see Monster pulling out of the tow, so maybe he's content to sit behind for the time being and let iQuicks expend his ERS and then launch an attack. It's risky because he could just completely drop back. Or he's just extremely confident in his ability to stick with that Mercedes. Just 6 laps to go in this race. A little bit wide there from iQuicks as he does push the limits. It's important to remember Monster does have 1 time penalty, iQuicks has none. So let's bear that in mind. As I said, he'll have DRS again through turn 9. It's so hard to stay close to a car though through here. It's all about setting up a good run for the final straight. Meanwhile, both of these drivers I have noticed are closing on 3rd place Tim Wenting. That gap was about 7 seconds, it's now 4.8. I don't think it's going to be enough at all to be remotely close to the Red Bull by the end of the race. But still, that gives Tim a little bit less wriggle room. Looks as if Monster's slightly closer this time round than last lap. Is he going to go for a move? Doesn't look like it. He's pulling out of the slipstream. He's content to sit behind for the time being. I'll echo what I said last lap. It's brave. It's almost risky from Monster. But, you know, if he's confident in his own ability, then fair enough. Looks like Benjamin now, after being brake tested by Crumpton, he's going to make a move on the sister AlphaTauri. The second AlphaTauri is going to look down the inside. He shows his nose. Felix gives him the room. All goes deep. Make of it what you will. But 2 steps softer compound tyres, you get the feeling that Benjamin's going to make this move very easily. Monster again is going to sit behind iQuicks. As down the inside goes Benjamin. That's a very unorthodox place to make a move. If I'm honest, I don't really know why he didn't just wait. But Benjamin clearly getting frustrated, a bit impatient, and went for a move in a place that you don't very often see moves at all, and as a result of that he's going to have to stick behind for another couple of corners. See if he can get a good run through turn 2, maybe around the outside of turn number 3. That's ambitious. He's going to switch back there. got a good run closing. Are we going to get scenes of 2016 Mercedes? He's going to go down the inside, they make contact! And this time, Benjamin has contact as a result of his own actions as he pushes the AlphaTauri through the corner. Benjamin's race is going from bad to worse, and there'll be no points for him today. Meanwhile, iQuicks has been repassed by Monster into turn number 1, so we saw Monster holding back for the last couple of laps. Was he just charging his ERS? Quite possibly. But it does look as if iQuicks, although just from the first sector, it does look as if iQuicks is quite content to sit behind. Let's not forget, Monster does have that 3-second time penalty, so iQuicks can drop, if he wants, 2.1 seconds and still get P4 from this race. He's a racer, the iQuicks, and he's going to battle for what he can. But I don't think he's going to be close enough this lap. I think Monster just took a couple of laps off to charge his ERS. And now has blasted through. Maybe even used the DRS and the ERS as a chance to set fastest lap. It may have been an attempt. We don't know. Meanwhile, it does look as if there's a bit of or there might be a train forming behind Chopper Team in the second Haas. At one point he was closing up to his teammate Crumpton in P10, but he seems to have dropped back. And that's put Ashley Boy right onto the back of him. This will likely be the battle for P10 because we expect Crumpton to receive 2 penalties for his incidents with Russell in the other McLaren and was it VRT Benjamin? Or it was VRT Benjamin, yeah. So it is expected that the driver who finishes P11 will end up P10. It looks like Ashley Boy will be able to make a move here on Chopper Team. DRS activated. The Haas moving to the inside, then back to the outside. Down the inside goes Ashley Boy there. Of turn number 1, that's a relatively easy move for the McLaren. He's up into P11. It looks like Russell is going to follow suit soon, but I'm not sure if he's actually disconnected from the session, because this is his ghost driving, so we'll have to see. But if that is the case, he's going to drop back. Or no, he'll be ghosting. Yeah, sorry, he's ghosting because he's getting lapped. Of course, a new feature on this year's game. I thought he'd left the session there, but thankfully he hasn't. And through goes, I believe that is Bolin. It is Bolin. And he can get on with his battle with Chopper Team. He's got softer tyres, so you'd assume that he'd be able to make that move. But the Haas is going to get a handing of DRS from the lap car of Bolin, making his way through. But yeah, the Haas is really going to need to stay within DRS range of the racing point of Bolin through this final sector, because if not, he'll be absolutely dead meat to Russell behind. There at one point was looking good for a P5 finish, but now doesn't look as if he's even going to get points, which is a shame for the McLaren. You see he's boosting with his energy. He's going to go to the inside this time. For Russell, it's a clean move on the Haas. He doesn't get taken out by a Haas driver. He's up into 11th or 12th place, I should say. And will he start to attack his teammate? That is yet to be seen. Further forward, iQuick still battling on with Monster as we go on to the penultimate lap of this race. iQuick's not able to make a move yet. Legend, though, is in an absolute land of his own at the moment, up in P1. 12 seconds to the next car behind. More than 25 seconds, 30 seconds to his teammate even. And you have to say he's really done a good job. Now, TRT Bo has left the session with just a lap and a half to go. Let's see if Magic Alonso can catch him, because that gap was 10 seconds. We'll see how quick that comes down, but back to Legend as he does start the final lap of the race. What a drive he's had. Hasn't put a foot wrong all day. If I'm honest, he won the race at turn 1, stayed ahead of Bolin, and has pulled a gap ever since then. as Bo is back in the session, so he will be able to confirm that P6 it will be, unless for another mistake or a couple of penalties. Here's iQuicks though. These two drivers just about to start their final lap of the race. It gives you a sense of the gap between these two drivers and Legend, how dominant Legend has been today. Does iQuicks have enough in the tank? He doesn't. You see he's out of VRS there. And iQuicks isn't going to be able to make a move on Monster down into turn number 1. He's going to have to save it for at least later on in the lap, but I don't think he's going to be able to get it. Monster just looks a little bit too strong at this point in time. Meanwhile, we've got the two McLarens battling. This could end up being the battle for P10, because we do expect Crumpton to get 2 penalties. Is Wushel close enough? He's going to stay behind his teammate for now. But, oh, it looks like Magic Alonso's got past Bo. Bo's had to come into the pits on the final lap. I'm not sure why that's been. But back to the front. Legend concludes an absolute dominating drive. The championship leader wins again. And it's the win for Legend and Mercedes in Spain. Can anyone stop him? Bolin's going to come home to claim a well-deserved P2. Similarly to Legend, sealed their place at the start, drove a solid race from them, both drivers and all drivers in the top 3 not picking up a penalty, so congratulations to them all. We've got 3 constructors on the podium, 2 engine manufacturers, Mercedes, Honda, Mercedes, Racing Point, Red Bull is the finishing order for the top 3. iQuicks does jump ahead of Monster on penalties, so as expected that move, or iQuicks not being able to make the move down into turn number 1, isn't going to be too much of a matter, because he jumps back ahead up into 4th position. Good points for Mercedes there. Monster 5th, rounding off a good day for Racing Point. It looks like Magic Alonso will come home to finish 6th after Bo had to stop on the final lap. He must have been his AI, so his AI, he's rejoined the session, but he hasn't been able to rejoin or retake control of his car, so that's bumped him down to 8th and Jackson up into 7th. Nevertheless, strong drives from the Ferrari driver. Jackson's actually going to let his teammate through. That's very sporting there from Jackson to give his teammate that position. Very sporting from Jackson, I have to say. He's made contact with Magic Alonso. And we're going to go into the finishing results, or provisional results I should say, of round 6 of ARC here in Spain. Legend wins again. Can anyone stop him? Another win to add to the history books for Mercedes and for Legend. You've got to admit they're looking very strong in both the Constructors and the Drivers' Championship. But it seems as if that battle for second between Racing Point and Red Bull will continue to hot up. Make sure you stay in touch with ARC on Instagram for all the updated standings. Here is the provisional finishing results. Legend wins again. No questions asked, really. Perfect drive from him. Pole, led every lap. I don't think he got fastest lap of the race. I will check that. He didn't. That was by Benjamin on his soft tyres, who had a shocking race, but not quite the hat-trick this weekend for Legend, but 2 out of 3. Pole and the win. Every lap led as well. Bolin was 2nd, Tim 3rd, iQuicks 4th, Monster 5th. That's the battles we were focusing on. Magic Alonso, Bo, Jackson, Sam D and Crumpton provisionally round off the top 10. However, we do expect Crumpton to come into a bit of bother with the stewards, so that should promote Wushel up into 10th position, who did get his teammate on the final lap. That was a fun race. As with the characteristics of Spain, it's always tricky to overtake, always tricky to follow, and that was proven by the monstrous gaps between 1st and 2nd's position. 13 seconds ended up separating the 2 drivers in the lead, and a further 20 seconds back to Tim. Gotta say though, strong drive from Tim to go from 5th to being put off at turn 5 all the way down to the back of the grid, all the way back up to 3rd place. So congratulations Tim, and congratulations all drivers for finishing. But I'd like to thank all of you for tuning in to watch this stream. Make sure you tune in next time for round 7 of the Authentic Racing Competition. I've been Alex Bomberg, and thank you for watching. I hope you have a great night. Goodbye.